to the J&J Show. I'm Jason.
And I'm Jake.
And today we're joined by the man of many hats, Coach Brian Nelson. All right, this week we're going to be talking about some college games of the week, the Maryland head coach situation of last week, Heisman odds, and playoff predictions. So let's start with we're going to start with Ohio State at Michigan State. Who you got, Jake?
You know, Ohio State I think they play 2 ranked games left, Michigan and Michigan State. And I think if they beat both of them, they can make it back in the playoffs because they're only number 8. So I think they have to win this game, and I think they're going to win this game because there's a lot of pressure on them. So I think that Ohio State's definitely going to win, and it's at Ohio State too, so that's an advantage.
Good evening, guys, by the way. Just wanted to say that. So, Jake, I thought it was at Michigan State. I may have it backwards.
It's at Michigan State.
It is at Sparty?
Yeah.
Okay.
I still
No.
think they're going to win Ohio State.
You think Ohio State's going to pull it out on the road?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Maybe I should.
All right.
Yeah, okay.
No?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I still think they will.
Okay. By the way, y'all didn't know that I was just going to take this thing over. So, you got number 18 versus, number 18 Michigan State. I think Ohio State is they're at 10 at 8-1. Guys, this is a battle of the field house. I don't know if you know this or not, but Coach Eric Bassinet, our volunteer here at Smith's, huge Ohio State guy.
Yeah, I know.
Scotty Victor, one of our new trainers, worked for Michigan State Athletics. Huge Sparty guy. So it's been a little tense down in the field house this week. You know, got that big rivalry coming up. Sparty's a 3-point dog at home against Ohio State. Yeah, man, you never know with these things. It's almost too close to call, but I'm going to go Ohio State.
Ohio State, usually every year they only have one loss, and it's to someone that they shouldn't lose to, and they've already had that game. So, Ohio State goes on the road and pulls it off against Michigan State. All right, next game we're going to go with Texas at Texas Tech. Who you got, Jake?
So Texas Tech hasn't done that great this year. I know this is a rivalry, and especially in rivalries, anyone can win any game at any time, any place. But Texas Tech relies on the throw a lot, and I think Texas can stop it. Is it at Texas Tech?
Yeah, it's at Texas Tech.
Yeah. I still think Texas is going to pull this one out. And they've proven to be a lot better this year, even though they're inconsistent. I think Texas can score high enough and can stop the throw that they're going to pull this one out.
Jake, we've really got to work on where they're playing at and stuff, buddy. I mean, that's a huge research element. I mean, as a teacher, I may have to mentor you guys on these picks and where they're playing. But Texas is a 2-point favorite, like 2. I can't stand Vegas when they do stuff like this. It's some
slim.
yeah, well, and it's a weird margin because they're trying to get people to bet. And guys, just the moral of the story: don't bet. I mean, just don't do it. Cliff Kingsbury, Lady Swoon. I just don't think that the hair gel and the Ray-Bans have enough for that air raid offense to be able to beat Texas. I'm going Tom Herman. And the Texas, I think they cruise, hook 'em horns.
I think Texas, they've been up and down all year. They played really well against Oklahoma, and then they've lost 2 in a row, I believe, to Oklahoma State and West Virginia. So, but this is a big rivalry game. I'm going to go with Texas too. All right. Next game, we have number 2 Clemson at 17 Boston College. Ranked week. What you got, Jake?
All right, so at Boston College, I got this one this time. It's good. I was listening. Clemson, if I had to pick an upset, I think it would be this one. Clemson, I think even if they lose this, they're still going to make it in. But Boston College has a great running back, and they can throw for a lot of yards. And they've proven to have a pretty good defense and keep the score pretty low, even though the teams that they've played haven't been too great. But I still think, I don't know, I think this one's going to be close. I think Clemson's going to win it, but I think everyone's going to be watching on their TV because they're going to hear that this game is going to be won by like 3 points or something. So, Clemson.
In the words of Lee Corso, not so fast, my young friend. Jake, Clemson's a 17.5-point favorite. 17.5.
What was their favorite against Syracuse?
I don't know, but it doesn't matter. Look, there's no Doug Flutie miracle that is going to pull this out for Boston College. I know you two, J&J, are too young to remember that, but it is one of the most iconic plays in college football history. No way. Not going to happen. Justin Ross made a great decision going to play at Clemson. I don't say that very often about kids from that other school. I don't talk about them very much. But I will say that he made a great decision going there. Dabo Swinney, even though he's a Bama guy, does a great job. Trevor Lawrence is the real deal. He is the real deal. They're going to win the ACC, and they are the team that can beat Bama in the playoff.
I agree.
Clemson all the way.
I'm going to agree with you just on the fact that Clemson is going to win this football game. I don't think Clemson – we're not going to talk about playoffs yet. But, yeah, Clemson cruises easily against Boston College. They're not going to screw up along the way. No one can beat them right now. Clemson all the way. All right, next game we have Auburn at number 6 Georgia. Big rivalry game this week. What you got, Jake?
This is a rivalry game at Georgia.
At Georgia.
And Nelson's already told us what he thinks. And I think it's a bit crazy. I think Georgia's going to take this one pretty easily. They barely beat A&M. They barely beat – or no, they didn't barely beat Ole Miss. But I still think Gus isn't the guy. They're not going to – I don't think that they can pull this one off. That's just – I don't even think this is a game to pick. It's just – I just don't think it's going to be close.
Jake, mentor Coach Nelson here. Don't foreshadow our pre-podcast conversations before we get on the air. Like, don't tell people what we've talked about. You're killing me here. You're trying to steal my thunder, Jake, and I don't enjoy it. Just kidding. Look, Auburn's a 14.5-point dog on the road. Doesn't matter.
Wait, why did it?
Oh, well, let me finish. Ryan Davis leads the SEC. Ryan Davis leads the SEC in yards after catch. Okay? He is the number one receiver for that. Auburn's D-line is the real deal. Kirby knows how to stop Gus on the flip side. But Gus also knows how to score on Kirby. I think it's a lot closer than the two-touchdown pick. And here's why. Auburn has nothing to lose. Auburn is supposed to lose this game. They're not supposed to beat Georgia. They have no SEC title hopes really relying on this. If Georgia loses to Auburn, they're done. They will not make the college football playoff. That being said, I'm going to say that this is the upset. I'm going to go with my Tigers. I'm never going to pick against my Tigers, but I will tell you, if they lose, it's going to be a lot closer than the 14.5-point spread.
Well, these past 2 weeks, I've picked against Auburn both times, and I've been wrong both times. But you know what? Auburn is headed to Georgia. They're going against a hot Jake Fromm right now and a hot DeAndre Swift and Elijah Holyfield. I don't think Auburn's defense gets it done. I think Georgia wins by the 2 touchdowns. All right.
Fromm will have to beat them. It's not going to be the running backs.
Yeah. No, well, yes, Fromm will have to beat them because defensive line will stop him at some point. But
Sean Davis at linebacker. I'm just telling you, Fromm's going to have to beat him in the air.
All right. So next game we have.
Wait. Can I say one more thing about that? So, beat him in the air. That's kind of funny because last week that's what Auburn had to do against A&M. You know they only got 19 rushing yards that entire game.
Auburn did?
Yeah. Or it was 19, and I think they got 300 and something throwing yards, and that just amazed me. It was crazy.
So what J&J, what you guys don't know is I have a little inside information. I have some friends of friends that are very closely related to the Auburn athletic department. And one thing that I will tell you is that the new offensive coordinator that came in, Chip Lindsey, who a lot of us know from his high school days here in the state of Alabama, is a big, 4 vertical, stretch the field, take the top off of it guy. And that's why Jarrett Stidham really was his guy. Gus loves running the power and running the power read. Chip likes airing it out. So when you see Auburn airing it out a lot, And, sometimes it kind of tells you who's really got the play call sheet and who did the game planning that week. But it's also dependent upon what the defense gives you. Sorry, just a little X's and O's talk.
That's fine. That's good.
All right, and our last game of the week, we have Mississippi State at number 1 Alabama. What do you think? Is it even close? Do you think?
No, what? I don't even know what I'm supposed to say. It's not going to be close. It's Alabama. That's all I have to say.
You don't even have to hand me the mic. All I'm gonna say is no mo cowbell. Bama.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Bama cruises easy in this one. Even though Mississippi State just had a good win these past 2 weeks, Alabama still cruises. All right, for the next thing, we're going to talk about Maryland's head coach situation this past week. Maryland last week rehired their coach, and then later in the week they ended up firing him. Coach Nelson, I just wanted to ask you, what's your take on how they handled that situation?
Well, so you guys have heard, some of this in our leadership stuff. We talk about discipline-driven responses versus default-driven. I think that there's a lot of default-driven responses going on dealing with DJ Durkin, however you say his name, the coach at Maryland. This scandal is, it's as big in Maryland as Alabama and the Love Gov was, and our governor using the state troopers helicopter to go get his wallet of all things. What? Really? It's just a long story. But I really think the whole situation has been handled wrong. One thing that I will say that I've learned in being involved in athletics is that the public only gets a very small portion of the story. The sad part is a young man lost his life. Apparently their emergency action plan was not carried out correctly. That being said, just the realness of how all of this works is there may have been some reasons why it took an hour and a half for the ambulance to get there. It can be anything from they had him in an ice bath in the field house and I'm giving the trainers and the coach the benefit of the doubt because in our profession, being a brotherhood, that's what we're supposed to do. And I don't know all the facts, so I'm just looking at it from kind of how we would go about handling it. So there's a lot of things that could go in there. What's the kid putting in his body during the week and the weeks leading up to that? That can play a huge part in heat stroke. We had some kids that were cramping for us, and once we started showing them, hey, what you put in your body is important, and every little thing that you put in there is going to, play into the metabolism and your water retention and all those things. So all that plays in, but I will say this. Ultimately, the head coach is responsible for the program. In everything that I read, they said that there is a toxic culture around the Maryland program. So the firing is justified. The rehiring, we don't know if that was something that had to be done per his contract before he could be rehired. His contract may have verbiage in it that says that he has to be reinstated after being put on administrative leave before he can be fired. Or they owe him a huge buyout. So there's a lot of stuff that plays into it. I always tell people don't go with the gut reaction. One thing I will say, since Matt Canada has taken over, Mike Tomlin, the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, his son has committed to play receiver at Maryland. So obviously, some things are going on there. Ray Lewis's kid plays there. They've got some big-time NFL pedigree. Going to Maryland, there's some good things going on. I think they'll get it turned around. It may take a couple years. They say 3 to 5 years to change the culture of a program. So maybe by the time these guys are seniors, you may be saying look out for Maryland.
All right, so next we're going to talk about Heisman odds. Obviously, Tua Tagovailoa is in front in number 1. Do you think at this point they're just fighting for the second-place finish, or what do you think the others are doing right now? Let's start with you, Jake.
I still think that something could happen, especially with Oakland still possibly being able to make the playoffs. Wait, do they have 2 losses?
You said Oakland?
Oklahoma.
They're 8-1, Jake.
Yeah, okay, so they could still make the playoffs, and so I still think that there's a hope, but I think something crazy would have to happen for Tua to be knocked out of that spot.
To me, the Heisman's kind of gotten away from what it was traditionally viewed as the best player in college football. it has gotten to be a point where it is, the person who is the flashiest, and I don't think that the right elements are really looked at. Tua, I know his brother's high school coach, and we've talked, and great kid, great family, and I hope he does win it just because of that. Obviously, he's a great leader. In a locker room full of 5 stars, they follow the kid. That speaks volumes. That being said, I think if Clemson continues to run the table, you may see Trevor Lawrence show up as a true freshman, invited to the ceremony, but he won't win it. Tua all the way.
Obviously, I still got Tua in front. I think I said last week that he would lock it up as long as he wins the game against LSU, and I think he locked it up with that late touchdown run to make it 22-0. I think it's his all the way. I think everybody else is just fighting for second place at this point. Will Greer, Kyler Murray, Dwayne Haskins from Ohio State, they're all just fighting for second place at this point. And honestly, he said that Coach Nelson said that it looks like who's ever the flashiest, that's who looks like it's going to win. And I think whoever looks the flashiest is going to get second place at this point. All right, so next we're going to have playoff predictions. Who do you have in your top 4 going into this week? Any changes or keep it the same?
Well, I think that number 4 spot changed for me. Number 1, Alabama looks decent this year. Number 2, Clemson. Especially if they beat Boston College, then I think that they'll lock that up. Number 3, Notre Dame. Sadly, I don't want them to be in it, but I think they're going to be. And then number 4 could be a mixture of teams, whether it's Ohio State or Oklahoma or Georgia. No, I don't know, but I think it'll probably be Oklahoma or Ohio State at this point.
Yeah, so, top 3, Bama, Clemson, Notre Dame. Definitely, Bama's probably got the toughest row to hoe because they've got to get through Auburn and the SEC championship game, which, those can be tough games. And, I mean, you have one flat day and it's over. Notre Dame's probably got the easiest road, being that they're an independent. I really wish they'd force them to get into a conference. Now, if you look at the rest of your kind of 8-1 teams, you got Michigan, Georgia, Oklahoma right there knocking on the door. LSU, no chance. They don't get in. Let me just kind of throw a wild card at you. West Virginia at 9-1 or 7-1 right now. They've moved up 4 spots. So they moved up from 13 to 9. If they make another jump like that, boys, they're inside the top 5, and they're battling for a playoff spot. So old Baldy Dana Holgerson, watch out. The old air raid's putting up some numbers.
Well, West Virginia and Oklahoma have to play for the championship. So I think if one of them beat each other, then they're almost definitely in because that'll be a big jump.
All right. Let me ask you this, Coach Nelson. As far as, throwing in another wild card, Washington State only has 1 loss so far this season, and I know they're in the Pac-12 and all, but do you think that they even have a shot? Or
boys, let me tell you, if you do not pay attention to Mike Leach and his tweets and just the randomness that is that guy, you are missing out. He is a character. I love some Mike Leach. I would love to see the Cougars get in it. But, Pac-12, man, I mean, you look, there's some predominant teams in that conference. You've got UCLA, Oregon, Washington, who was, a top 10 team at the beginning of the year with Jake Locker. And was it Jake Locker?
Jake Browning.
Jake Browning, yeah, that's his name. Locker was there before him. They're still in the top 25. So, I mean, that's a tough conference. They very well could do it. But one thing I want to point out, we've talked about a lot of air raid teams, and that's an old school, offensive passing set. And so you've got West Virginia, Washington State. See, what people don't realize is that Holgerson at West Virginia, Leach at Washington State, Kinsbury at Texas Tech, they all worked for Hal Mumme at Kentucky when Kentucky was really good in the early 90s. So they were all there together. They all run the same system. So it'll definitely be interesting. But, yeah, I mean, hey, that's a good one.
All right, so my playoff predictions, obviously 1 Alabama, 2 Clemson, 3 Notre Dame. They're all still undefeated. I'm going to still keep Michigan at the number 4 spot. I still think they end up winning the Big Ten. And Brian's over here shaking his head at me. You don't think they end up beating Ohio State and going to the Big Ten championship game?
I'm going to tell your mom you called me by my first name. And Miss Williams is going to get you. I just don't think the Khakis have got it in it, man. I just there's something about that Michigan program that just does not and has not sit well with me. I don't know if I've been hanging out with Coach Eric too much. I don't know, but I don't think they get through Ohio State. I think Urban Meyer, which he's really closely involved with the Focus 3 guys and the Kite brothers, or the Kite father-son team that I listen to a lot. And I know that program, and I know what that program will do for, kind of the intangibles for a team. And I just think that's the X factor. I think that's one of those things that Michigan doesn't have. Sure, they got beat by Purdue, who has some pretty sweet helmets. But that is something we need to add to this program.
What is the best helmets?
Oh, no, best uniforms, man. Like, best uniform combinations and talk about them and why we like them. I think that may be a good show.
Maybe next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, next week.
Okay, all right. So, but, yeah, no, Michigan doesn't get through Ohio State.
Wait, can I add one more thing to that?
Yeah.
The only thing with me is for the number 4 spot, it's just going to be tough because whoever wins that Oklahoma-West Virginia game is going to have to battle with Ohio State. Because if Ohio State beats Michigan State and Michigan, it's just going to be whoever they decide.
Who's got the better resume?
Yeah, because
the schedule.
Ohio State has to go farther because they're ranked the lowest at 8 right now. 10?
Yeah.
Oh.
They're at 10 in this poll.
Okay, they're at 10. And
An average of 9.
yeah, and then West Virginia is right at number 9, and Oklahoma's at number 6. So I think it would be Oklahoma if Oklahoma wins that game, but if West Virginia wins, I think it'll be Ohio State.
Throwing a little something at you. I was watching, I believe, College Game Day the other week, and they said Oklahoma and West Virginia play each other at the end of the season, correct? So whoever wins that game, they still end up playing each other in the Big 12 championship game. So what if one of them wins the first game and the other one wins the second game? Does that just knock each other out?
That's kind of what Coach Lee talked about a few weeks ago, how those championship games kind of can screw up the teams themselves, because didn't we see that last year with Auburn and Georgia and Alabama?
Yeah.
So I think if that happens, Ohio State easy. I think that they'd knock each other out.
What do you think, Coach Nelson?
Yeah, so basically you two are saying that West Virginia and Oklahoma are going to cancel each other out, and Ohio State slides in around them, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a viable option. I mean, basically, guys, you look at it, there's a lot of puzzle pieces. You still got several weeks. I mean, we've got over a month before, this stuff starts being decided. All those scenarios could play out. Somebody can have a major injury. One of these guys can slip, falling, getting off the bus, walking into the stadium, and now you got a huge game changer. So I still think Ohio State's got a great shot at being that 4 just because of the X factor. But it would be nice to see even Washington State slip in there on them. But if you look at if you kind of look through the top 25, there's a lot of Big Ten teams in there and not a lot of Big 12. So, all right.
Well, thank you for joining us today, Coach Nelson. This has been the J&J Show. I'm Jason.
I'm Jake.
And we hope y'all tune in next week.
We'll be right back.